back, falling down. Let me get my tunes right. Y'all know what we got to do. Grand rising to all. Grand rising to all. Hope y'all had a great weekend. Hope the summer is wait, is it summer or spring? Hopefully summer's coming. Summer's on the way, right? Let's get our intro music and we shall go from there.
Big fish. We the ones that you wanna get with. Took a couple L's, rung a couple bells. Real ones, too legit for coins.
Hey, Unc said, Wu-Tang, hey, Unc, I'm about to show my young age. Or maybe my out of touchness with hip hop culture at times. But no, what's the whole Wu-Tang thing? What's the Wu-Tang reference? I know I'm missing it.
That's worthless, yes. All we do is impress. Put the work in, never mind.
Yes. What's everybody? Where's everybody at? Let me know where you tapping in from as you're joining. Let me put that. As you can see, we are back in Miami. Well, I guess you can't see it because the damn sun is so bright in the back. I was worried about how the camera's gonna come through. Actually, let me turn this a little bit. Nah, you know what we're gonna do? 1 second. So today's gonna be a little different. Same energy, but just a little different. There we go. Oh man. My background that was prepared for me keeps falling, but it's all good. Hold up, Unc. That's you? You in Florida, Unc? What you doing out in Florida? Yeah, wouldn't that be weird if I put it up myself? No, I didn't. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm not the biggest. You guys will find out by the end of this show why it's a little bit funny. Because I'm not like the biggest birthday person. What's up, Professor? How's everything going, Professor? Yeah, I'm not the biggest birthday person. I'll be totally honest. And a lot of that's because, why is that? Why will I say? Birthdays to me, I was thinking about what kind of comparison I could draw. And a birthday to me is almost, why does this thing look so off center? My fault. Hold on. I'm like, damn, feels a little weird. All right, I'll just be off center. It's all good. But birthdays to me are a bit weird because, not a bit weird, but it's almost like I've never gone off to war. But I have gone off to training camp. And I never really enjoyed those moments before training camp, whether it was prep school. I guess that's when it first started. When I had to go away, leave my town, go to prep school for this 2-week period or however long it was to get ready for football. And then I had a whole lot of anxiety. I wasn't sure if it was just because, all my friends going to college and here I am going to prep school. And I was getting ready to do something that I loved, or I thought that I loved, in football. And it was the first time that I questioned whether or not I love it, because I realized, like, oh, damn, this is the first time that I'm ever playing football since the time I was 10 years old, without my friends. And that was a large reason as to why I got into football and why I loved it so much. And there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress before going to camp, because it's one of those things where you have your goals and you care about something so much, you're passionate about it, and then you finally get the opportunity. And it's no different than right before like a game when you get a lot of butterflies, you get stressed, you get anxious. But that time before camp, that entire lead up, as you got closer and closer, for me, it just became pretty stressful. And it was a time where I would think back, remind myself on like, yo, you trained for this, you're prepared. You're ready to go do what you need to do. You're ready to go have a great season. But perhaps there's always that question of, well, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? And certain amount of doubt always creeps in, and just you wanting to do something so well, that anticipation created a lot of anxiety for me. So then it happened when I went to college, and I can remember, college training camp, like I cry. I was crying. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I don't even want to be here. I want to go home. And then in the NFL, it was probably one of the most stressful things that I ever had to endure. Like one of the most stressful things, a lot of anxiety. And it's because you get to a certain point where you're so close to reaching your dream, but you're also, it's just how it goes, I guess. Yeah. It's just making a space for me in the middle with things falling in the back. But I guess you get so close to your dream and you realize that you're also so close to not accomplishing it at all. And those same thoughts, those same, that same time that I spend um, replaying in my mind all the training that I did. Did I train enough? Did I do this enough? And when you actually go to compete, that's when you're held accountable. That's when the onus is on you. That's when you're held responsible for either you were prepared, either you weren't, and that's going to affect your performance. So, getting back to the birthdays for me, it's always a time where I reflect back on the last year. And for somebody like me, I don't know how you guys are, but I'm a big overachiever at times. I set big goals for myself. And most of the times, I'll be totally honest, most of the time I don't accomplish them. Um, I aim pretty high, and that's kind of how it is. Matter of fact, the only time that I didn't aim high, I'll be totally honest, was with the NFL. My goal was just to make the team. And I realize that now that I didn't aim as high as I would in other aspects of life. And perhaps that's what impacted me and made my career so short. I mean, you can't really look back on it like that, but it just is what it is. Not losing sleep over it. But getting back to the birthdays, what do you do on a birthday? I know a lot of people celebrate. I know a lot of people um, buy stuff. I know a lot of people do all types of stuff. But for me, I look back on the last year and I want to learn every single lesson that I learned from shortcomings, losses, from wins, all of the above. And then I'm looking forward into the next year. And it's more so like, bro, you got a big uphill battle to climb. You got this hill that you got to climb. You got this mountain that you got to get through, and over whatever you want to use, I guess. And it's one of those things where I get very like a lot of negative thoughts. It's probably the day in my life that I have to fight out negative thoughts as much as possible. Me dwelling on the past. That's just how probably one of the hardest thing in sports, even though sports did help me, but one of the hardest thing for me in sports was, you hear the saying, the next play. But when I made a bad play on the last play, it was always very hard for me to get that thought out of my mind and just move on to the next play. It was always easier said than done. So when it comes to birthdays, I'm thinking about the last play and the last two plays and the last three plays and if I would have done this better, if my 37 turning 38, I turned 38 today. If 37 was better, what would 38 look like? If 36 was better. And it's not necessarily if it was better, but it's if I would have stuck to the script, if I would have committed to the things that I said I needed to commit to, if I would have stayed true, if I would have stayed disciplined, if I would have been a little bit more uncompromising, where would life be? That's just the thoughts that go through my mind. So maybe this was just a coping mechanism that I decided to do, which is I said, you know what? Let me write down 38 life lessons that I've learned in no particular order. Not that the first one is the most important or the last one's the most important, but just things that came to mind when I was thinking about these yesterday and then late last night. And I figured maybe that in my mind that that could be some sort of distraction from me dwelling on the negative. But it wasn't. It's still the same thing. Birthdays is see this the bad juju, bad birthday juju. But it is what it is. Um, and it was just more of those thoughts that I was sharing with y'all earlier about questioning things. And so I figured, let me just do the life lesson so at least I could put out some positivity to the rest of the world. And like we always say, you put out positivity and it'll come back. So this is what I decided to do. This is what I decided to do. And as you're seeing on the bottom of the screen, which I didn't realize was already up, the first lesson. So I'm going to try to get through 38 lessons, make it as relatable as possible. Um, y'all know we try to make it as entertaining as possible, but I can't promise that. I can't promise that. If I was, talking about politics, I can be a little bit more confident and, knowing that, hey, I'm gonna, this is gonna be a little bit entertaining, or at least be a little passionate, whatever it may be. But this is just gonna be me having a convo with y'all, sharing some things that my experience, I believe, has taught me. um, I guess we'll continue to learn those things and to see if these quote unquote lessons that I'm sharing with y'all are actually consistent. And we'll just kind of go from there. So first and foremost, do me a favor, like and subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, definitely subscribe. That helps the algorithm. But like and yeah, yeah, and I would say enjoy. But yeah, just have a combo with me, and maybe in the middle of it, we'll take a little break and talk about my guy Biden, and send some positive energy out to him as well. But let's start off. Let's start off. So number one, life lesson: listening and observe. Matter of fact, hold on. Let me actually do this. Can I do this real quickly? No, I'll just go with what we got. I'll just go with what we got. All right. Don't switch things up. That's another life lesson. Just dig in. All right. Listening and observing is more valuable for understanding. Listening and observing. So y'all know that I come on here all the time and talk my ish. And if you've ever met me in person, depending on the dynamics of the relationship, then I've probably never been hesitant to hold my tongue. I like having conversations. I like sharing my thoughts. I like hearing other people's thoughts, and people would say that I like debating, but I like more so just. I mean, maybe I do like debating, not necessarily arguing. People would say I like arguing. I do like enjoy debating, even though I've been enjoying it a little less lately, I guess. But yeah, listening and observing is more valuable for understanding. That's something that I've definitely had to embrace. Where when you're in a debate, to me, the difference between a debate and an argument is that you have to pay attention to what the other person is actually saying. You have to take heed to what they're saying, understand it, so then you can properly respond, but not just listening or waiting till they take a breath to just jump in there and respond. So listening and observing has definitely been more valuable for gaining understanding for me. I don't know how you all feel, but that's definitely been my experience. And once again, and every now and then I'll go and check the chat, every maybe five or so, I'll go and check the chat. So if you guys have any thoughts on these, feel free to chime in as well. So like I said, listening and observing is more valuable for understanding. That's been something that's key. When you look at just life, observing, like reading, all these different things, observing different experiences, observing different people, and how they move in certain situations. It allows you to understand their perspectives as well, hear their stories, hear exactly why they think the way that they think, hear what their experience has shaped them to be. So number two, believing in the things we love is dangerous. This is a big one for me. Um, and this is believing in things that we like, that we love, and then rationalizing what we're going to do based on our feelings, and affection towards things, and also with people. A lot of times when you think about the the situations the vulnerable situations or the costly, detrimental situations that we put ourselves in, a lot of it is due to us believing in, our loved ones, us thinking that this person's going to change, us thinking that this person's going to, betting on this person, or maybe even hiring somebody that's close to you. I don't know what it may be, but believing in things we love is dangerous. And not even from just that standpoint, it could be on when it comes to religion. It could be when it comes to politics, believing in things that we love, believing in whatever it may be. Um, it takes a lot of the logic out of things, and it can it can put us in a position to where we're reacting strictly out of very passionate emotions rather than making the best logical decision. So believing in the things that we love is dangerous, can be dangerous. It can also be amazing. But yeah, I guess there's always a yin and a yang to everything. Maybe that's a good life lesson. If you want to go hard and try to achieve in a certain goal, believing in if football is my love, let's say, and I'm believing in it. And when you put all your eggs in one basket, you also have to sacrifice. If things don't work out there, then that was time, effort, and energy that you put into something else. So that's kind of what my thought process was on that. Number 3, I guess we kind of, you could tell I went in order with some of these. Some of them have similar values to them. We are most vulnerable with those we love. We are most vulnerable with those we love. A lot of times we'll put up that healthy guard, or create a certain amount of distance with those that we don't necessarily love, or that we don't have the same level of affection for, care for. But then when you think about the situations that put you in maybe some of your worst positions, it's based on us being vulnerable with the people that we love. Like I said in the last one, us believing in the people that we love, us putting ourselves in compromising positions based on the people that we care about the most. Just understanding from that standpoint, we are most vulnerable. We are most vulnerable. We talk about it all the time when I sit here and say, not that this is a direct, correlation, but when I sit here and say, like, oh, I talk about maybe single households, but people that live in single households, I may be just thinking about it from a logical standpoint, and maybe me not growing up in a single household has afforded me the ability, or I'm a little insensitive, I should say, to where I'm saying something and not realizing that, well, people become very vulnerable and people become very passionate around those things that we love and want to protect those that we love. So I hope I'm kind of making a little bit of sense there, but I'm pretty sure that we've all, I guess if you've reached the age of 20, if you did middle school, high school, you understand this one, that we are most vulnerable with those that we love, in various different areas. So let me move on. Oh, nah, Train said, I know you ain't cut your hair. Nah, it's back here. There we go. All right. So then let's keep moving on. Number 4. The hardest advice to take is the advice we give to ourselves. Man, I swear, most of us, and you realize when you talk to people that most people know exactly what they need to do in order to accomplish whatever goal that we set out for ourselves, right? Most of the time, we know exactly what we need to do. Now, it's having that, knowing exactly what we need to do over here, and having those two things meet each other with the action, like having the action meet with, oh, yeah, I know what I need to do. And I'm not going to use the example that I always use, but if you want to get a good grade on the test, you know exactly what you need to do, but now it's just bringing the action to it. So this can be in various areas of our lives, whether it's trying to attain a goal, whether it's a relationship. That's probably the one that shows up the most. We all got the best advice when it comes to other people's relationships. The best advice, and it's very black and white, right? It's like, nah, you should leave. No, you should do this. You should do that. But then when it comes to our own relationships, it gets a little. It's not so easy to just follow through. So that one is definitely one that I've just thought about a lot. The hardest advice to take is the advice that we give ourselves, because when we think about it, we all know what we need to do, probably more so than any therapist or any coach or anybody else would tell us. But just like when it comes to having a trainer, your trainer is not there to, in my opinion, to tell you, to teach you what exercises to do in order to get in shape. You know, you can look on YouTube and find out how to squat. You can look on YouTube and find out how to do a lunge. You can look up a workout plan. The coach comes in from an accountability standpoint. So when we're holding ourselves accountable, it can become a lot harder than somebody else holding us accountable, especially if we're paying somebody money. So that for me, number four, that's why that is a bit difficult for me. That's one of the biggest challenges that I have is taking my own advice. Number five, never spend more time trying to convince someone that you're right where it distracts you from winning. Never spend more time. Have y'all ever been in that type of situation where you'll argue with somebody, try to convince them, try to teach them why this is the right way, why they're seeing things wrong, and this almost reminds me of like if you ever had somebody that you're mentoring. This occurs with like young kids. Maybe this is just the one that stands out to me. I can remember when my mom and I and my dad, we were a bunch of us, my brother, all of us were doing this program with the kids in Montclair. And I remember now it's crazy. A lot of them just graduated college and some of them are getting ready to try out for the NFL, like all different, like this was when they were very young. And I can remember trying to convince them, like, yo, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to make sure that you're practicing, you got to make sure that your grades are good, you got to make sure that you're being responsible, all these different things. And this can happen in various areas. This probably isn't the best example, but maybe it's just the safest example that I'm using it for. Maybe that's why. But you try to convince them, and you realize, and it's like I think it's a Meek Mill song when he says nobody listens to the broke Negro, and he used a different word, but that always stood out to me because it's like if you want to give people advice, people are more likely to listen to it when you're actually winning, when you're actually in a position that they want to get to. I realize that I have to scream a lot louder when I'm trying to convince somebody to do something when I'm not in a position that they want to get to, compared to if I'm winning in a position that they want to get to, then I could damn near whisper it and they're holding on to every word. And I always used to think, like, here I am giving these kids advice and they open up their phone and they have access to, Instagram to look up, their favorite rappers, favorite athletes. And, just to be totally honest, at that time, I just moved back in the crib. What they gonna listen to me for? I need to focus on winning and be getting myself into a position that they're looking up to and aspiring to be in, to be able to even have their ear, to even have a chance of them listening. So that was that could be a humbling one. When you look at it. So number five was never spend more time trying to convince someone that you're right where it distracts you from winning. And this could be in a bunch of different areas. Shoot, you could have an argument throughout the day right now about politics or anything else. And you realize, you look up like, damn, I took away 4 hours from doing work today, when just from arguing with somebody who's never going to change their stance anyway. So different ways to look at it. Number six, being used is an honor. Just make sure you monetize it. So being used, a lot of times we talk about being used as with a negative connotation, and it's not. Think about everybody that you shop with. Think about how you use Mercedes or how you use, your favorite clothing brand. We're using them. Who are you going to use to feed you tonight? Your favorite restaurant. Just make sure that you monetize it. And I know the whole use term is probably centered around when there's an unequal or unfair exchange, when you're giving a lot more than you're receiving. So that would probably be what people mean as being used. But being used is an honor. that means that somebody sees value in you. And it's just on us to figure out how exactly we're going to monetize that and turn it into something that's valuable to us. And that monetization, I shouldn't say monetization, but I should have said maybe get a value, get a return value, because it doesn't always have to be monetary. So being used as an honor, just make sure that you're receiving some value back as well, whatever that may be. And it may be, you're volunteering your services for a particular effort. It could just be something that's rewarding for you. It could be just something that you just want to do. And that could be the value that you get in return. But in other areas, it can hinder us. So just wanted to share that one with y'all.